Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Dakota Fundraising News Podcast. Happy Friday. It is June 6th. Crazy to think that we're already almost halfway through the year, Matt.
Wild.
Hopefully some of you guys got to meet our colleagues in Berlin at our event the other day. If you didn't get a chance to, it'll be in the Ham Yard Hotel in London this coming week, June 11th, I think is the date there. We listed out the rest of our slate of events on the last podcast. You can learn more about that on dakota.com to see where we'll be out here in the States for our cocktail events. But Matt, let's just get into it. Before we do, a quick reminder, wherever you're listening to our podcast, we appreciate it if you'd give us a like and subscribe, and then share the podcast with a colleague. But Matt, why don't we just get into the job changes?
Let's do it. Let's jump right in. Yeah, first one to note, former Foresight Capital Director Tom Borghard, he just joined Yale Investments to assume the same role at the University Endowment. So Borghard brings over 15 years of experience, including 6 years at RTX, where he held roles focused on pension investments and investor relations throughout his tenure there. So Tom Borghard now with Yale Investments. Next one to jump into with Caprock, multifamily office servicing ultra high net worth clients. They just appointed Vivek Jindal as their chief investment officer. Jindal held the same position during his prior firm, Core Private Wealth. He was with them for 4 years. And also prior to Core, he was the head of growth and private markets at Corian. So Vivek now servicing as the CIO over at Caprock. Last one to jump into here, Jonathan Grushkin, former director of absolute return and real assets at Cleveland Clinic. He has joined Sanford Health as their new CIO. Jonathan brings over 15 years of industry experience. He began as an analyst with Mercer before also holding senior positions at Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, and then ultimately at his prior firm, Cleveland Clinic. So Jonathan, now the CIO over at Sanford Health. But that's it for job changes. I'll kick it over to you with some news items.
Sweet. Thanks, Matt. I'll lead us into our RIA segment here, starting with Mariner Wealth Advisors, a firm that most everyone is familiar with. $550 billion serial RIA acquirer. They've recently struck a deal with Taurus Asset Management, which is going to add about $1.4 billion in client assets, expanding their footprint in the professional athlete advising space. Taurus was founded by Bradford Peck, in 2004, and they largely cater to high net worth advisors or high net worth individuals with a particular specialty in advising professional and retired athletes of the NHL. Hockey fan, Matt?
A little bit.
Yeah.
Playoffs.
Nice.
Just about it.
But yeah, Mariner, they do have a dedicated team of pro athlete advisors, including senior wealth advisor Justin McCarthy, who is a NFLPA registered player financial advisor. So interesting note there. I know Pat Ty and our investment research team, they did a segment on sports investing on the Dakota Research Podcast.
Yeah,
it's in the same
that.
feed on Spotify and all other platforms if you're checking that out. So do check that out if you haven't. Keeping it moving here, EP Wealth Advisors, they have acquired Buffington Mohr McNeal, adding around $900 million in client assets to the firm. Buffington Mohr McNeal, they were based out in Boise, Idaho, employing co-founders Carrie McNeal and Bruce Moore, who will both be joining EP Wealth in the transition there. And then lastly here, just a new RIA that we wanted to call out. Michael Breitfeller, who is an advisor over at Northwestern Financial, he has launched the Breit Group, based out in Wilmington, North Carolina. They're going to be utilizing Town Square Capital for sub-advisory services. So do check out that firm in Dakota Marketplace. Congrats to them.
Yeah, thanks, Conch. Now jumping into some search activity we've seen over the past couple of days. The first one is with Medford Contributory Retirement System, right around a $260 million public plan using NEPC from a consulting standpoint. They're looking to allocate out right around $8 million to a passive S&P 400 index manager. That deadline is June 20th, so quickly approaching. Once the summer comes around, I feel like time flies, so just note that June 20th will be here before we know it. So that's for Medford. One other search to note as well is actually overseas, which is exciting.
Nice.
Tracking some activity there. The Swedish Fund Selection Agency, FTN, is preparing a new search for actively managed global technology equity funds. So they are currently in the market research phase for this search, gathering input from asset managers. It's not a formal RFP, but they are trying to gauge some interest currently. This mandate will focus on global tech stocks, benchmarked, unconstrained, and actively managed strategies. So just note those key components there. And then also sustainability and fee competitiveness will be key evaluation criteria as well. So FTN is requesting feedback from managers by June 14th. We thought June 20th was coming up, June 14th, even closer. So they are requesting feedback by that date on issues like portfolio structure and a minimum AUM. So if you fall within that category from a fund and focus standpoint, a good opportunity there to reach out and get involved in that activity.
Great. Yeah. Awesome to see some activity out in the Swedish market.
Yeah.
Let's just keep it going here with institutional investors, though. I'll just give some quick investment updates from some public plans here in the States, starting out with Orange County employees, $25 billion plan. They disclosed close to $295 million in new commitments across 9 different funds. Just to quickly list some of these off here, Hg Saturn 4 private equity receiving $35 million. A smaller venture allocation to Mayfield Select Fund 3, that's $5 million there. Back to private equity here, Grain Spectrum Holdings Fund 5 with $50 million. HIG Starlight Co-Investment Fund, $10 million there. A couple other co-investment funds that received around $17 million. And then another venture fund, early stage venture fund with Collective Global Fund 1 receiving $20 million. And then the one I did skip over was a larger allocation to private credit. That's going to be $150 million to the Castlelake Asset-Based Private Credit Fund 3. A little bit of a mouthful there. To see all details of that, of the investments from Orange County, you can check that out in Dakota Marketplace. Going over to Louisiana, though, their state employees retirement system, close to $16 billion in assets. They use NEPC as their consultant. They also allocated to private equity, large allocation of $100 million to Stripes Fund 7. I believe that's a new relationship for the pension there. And then lastly, Houston police officers pension system, $7 billion in assets. They use Mercer and Franklin Park for private equity. They allocated $45 million to private credit, though. That's going to be going to the TPG AG Credit Solutions Fund 3. This is out of their May 9th meeting, so just last month. Matt, why don't you close us off here with 2 fundraising updates from Carlisle's AlpInvest partners and then also from Thoma Bravo, some pretty massive fund closings here.
Yeah, huge. Yeah, the first one with Carlisle, their AlpInvest co-investment fund 9 with right around $4.1 billion in capital, topping the predecessor fund, which closed in 2021 at $3.5 billion. So impressive just to see the growth with the follow-up fund there. But the co-investment fund, which will target cross-sector private equity buyouts and growth capital transactions, received commitments from over 185 new clients and prospective investors, but also current clients as well.
Nice.
That included a $60 million ticket from the Kentucky TRS, which of course you can find all that information and more within Dakota and Dakota Marketplace. And then with Thoma Bravo, they closed their Fund 16 and also their Discover Fund 5 at $24.3 billion for the Fund 16, and then $8.1 billion in assets for the Discover Fund 5, completing its latest fundraising cycle for its buyout strategy with a total of $34.4 billion of capital raised. This also includes the previously announced $2 billion in assets closing of Thoma Bravo European Fund. The firm's prior round raised a total of $34.2 billion in assets. So just impressive and remarkable to raise that much across a variety of funds there for Thoma Bravo. We can close it out as well with some of the events that are coming up. I know you mentioned earlier on the podcast too. We discussed it during the last one, but we've got London next Wednesday at the Ham Yard Hotel. We've got Denver coming up on July 17th. We'll be in New York June 25th. We're all over the place with cocktail events. So if you have any questions around those, always reach out to us. Happy to help answer. But yeah, Concha, anything on your side before we close it out?
I'm good. Have a great weekend, everyone. Matt and I will be back next week. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, enjoy the weekend.
This episode is brought to you by Dakota Marketplace. Are you tired of constantly jumping between multiple databases and channels to find the right investment opportunities? Introducing Dakota Marketplace, the comprehensive institutional and intermediary database built by fundraisers for fundraisers. With Dakota Marketplace, you'll have access to all channels and asset classes in one place, saving you time and streamlining your fundraising process. Say goodbye to the frustration of searching through multiple databases, websites, Form ADVs, and say hello to a seamless and efficient fundraising experience. Sign up now and see the difference Dakota Marketplace can make for you. Visit dakota.com/Dakota-Marketplace today.